Red Hood issue 1, written by Gretchen FELKER-MARTIN and art by Jeffrey Spokes, who I think we recently saw on that Jenny Sparks series that Tom King did. The art is pretty good, actually. If anything, I like the art here more than I did in Jenny Sparks. So credit where credit's due. So yeah, it's interesting getting into this because there's obviously a lot of heat behind it now, and even without the controversy of the comments and the being fired and all that, apparently I didn't know this until today because I was just looking stuff up, but apparently there was some controversy from Red Hood fans before the book even came out. Because
wait, what? There's Red Hood fans?
Oh yes, and they were upset about this because the writer had said, apparently, I don't know if it was in an interview or on social media or whatever, but had said at some point after the book was announced or solicited that she'd never read a Red Hood comic and didn't really care about what had come before. And Red Hood fans were not pleased by this. However, as someone who does not like Red Hood, that is the best sales pitch I have ever heard for your Red Hood comic. Sure.
But like, let's say Guy Gardner, who's a character that you don't care for and I love. If there was a new Guy Gardner book and I had heard that the writer had never read a Guy Gardner story, they're going in fresh, I'd be a little annoyed, but I would still be like, all right, let's see what this take on Guy Gardner is. Yeah, man. Rough looks already. And then so I pulled up the solicit. Well, not the solicit. So I anytime we talk about these, I pull up the information from League of Comic Geeks, and it always has the solicit.
Yeah.
And do you know what the main part of this, the first line in the solicit, Pete? Do you know what it says?
I don't know. What does it say?
Erupting from the events of Hattush comes DC's first ever in continuity mature readers ongoing Red Hood. And I saw that and I'm like, oh boy.
All right, hold on. Right, okay, on that. Okay, yes, this is set after Hattush, and Jason makes multiple references to things going bad with Bruce, and that's why he's not in Gotham. So this is actually set after Hattush, but we won't get the end of Hattush. In fact, we won't even get the end of part 1 of Hattush until January. So there's that, right? That's going on. Secondly, that mature readers part, I did not know that. There's an F-bomb in this issue, and I went, wait a minute. Why is that not censored? What's going on? So that caught me off guard. So here's the weird thing. So some Red Hood fans are very upset that the Red Hood is out of character in this issue. They think he's written out of character. I actually don't think he's that out of character, but they think he's out of character, so fair enough. I don't know if that's just like because of what the writer said before is clouding their expectations, so they're going in looking for anything that doesn't quite match up with what they think he is. People also think Huntress is out of character, who's also in this. I feel like she's just kind of underwritten, but she's only in like 2 scenes in this issue, so I feel like I'd have to see more of her Huntress to say whether or not. And it's been ages since we've even had it. When was Huntress last around? Like the Tamaki Detective Comics run was maybe the last Huntress stuff we had.
Yeah, that feels like the last time I've really seen Helena Bertinelli. I
think she was maybe in like one issue of like a story in like an anthology book or something, maybe a little bit after that. But
other than that, the most Huntress we've seen was when Johns was doing the JSA, right? And it was Helena Wayne.
Yeah,
she was out of time and stuff. So yeah, Helena Bertinelli you haven't really seen. So this would be her first major appearance, and she said she's only in like 2 scenes or 2 pages. 2
scenes, is what I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which is fine, but she's billed as the sort of the secondary lead of the book. She just feels a little bit underwritten because, like, you know, like the only exchange she really has with Red Hood is him saying, "Oh, did Batman send you?" And she's like, "No one tells me what to do. I'm Huntress," and that's basically like her entire shtick. So it feels very just kind of simple in this issue. So the premise of this book is that Red Hood is in a different city. Let me see if I can get the name of it here, because it's not one that I like remember all that much. He's in, oh god, it was like a 2-worded city. Here, New Angelique. That's where he is.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a real place, but I think it's kind of meant to be in like like somewhere near Florida, because he keeps talking about the humid heat. Maybe
Okay.
somewhere in that area. Anyway, so the premise of this book is that something called the Tower, right? Some entity, group, whatever, called the Tower, is somehow like brainwashing cops into murdering someone and then kill themselves. And there's like videos of this happening on social media that keep getting taken down, but they keep coming back up. And Jason wants to investigate this and deal with it. Like everyone who's been a victim of this has come from the same police department or has been through that same police department. So he's in the city investigating that. And that's kind of the main thing we get into. So the funny thing about this issue is that I think it's mostly kind of well written, but the weird thing is that I think all of the original characters and the plot are much better and more interesting than Jason himself, or even Huntress, because the back half of the issue, after Jason has a conversation with Huntress, and he has a conversation with this character that he goes to for intel that he knows, who's kind of this like informant with a mask, who's kind of, I don't know, a bit of like a local vigilante kind of vibe from them. He like gets betrayed, right? He goes back to meet them again, and there's like bad people waiting with guns, and Jason's straight up shooting people. Like they're not holding back on the violence here. Like they've left a bunch of dead people back at this church that they've had this fight on. Huntress ends up showing up to save his ass, and that's the second scene she's in. And after that, though, the last like several pages introduce this detective who comes to the crime scene, sees all these dead bodies, and he's like, "Oh, this is serious shit." Like it's all over the news. They want to find out who this like local vigilante was, because Red Hood, upon being betrayed, shot this vigilante in the face, like straight up kills them, right? And I think this is one of the points that was getting to me here about Red Hood fans not liking this book, is that what's so funny to me is that it feels like it's actually doing a lot of the things that the Red Hood books have never been allowed to do. Like, he's like far away from Batman, right? We're not just constantly talking about how he's mad at Batman and he's having to use rubber bullets and like work around things. No, he is straight up murdering people, and he's far away from Batman, and like it's an M-rated book, so he's allowed to do that. And it feels like they're really going out of their way to be, this is DC's Punisher. Red Hood is the DC Punisher.
That seems like a good corner to be on, right? Like there's not really anything like that. So and that's always what I kind of associated Jason with, and over the times, he's still the the bastard child of the Bat family, but he's gotten closer with them, and there's been better stories. But yeah, making him have his own unique identity, which kind of is not that unique when you think it's Punisher in DC. But give him that unique identity, and even in the Bat family, give him a new place to be, far away from Bruce. Yeah, that seems like the kind of thing you'd want. So,
I mean, I do think some of the dialogue between him and Huntress is a wee bit weird. Like, he just kind of says, "Get out, I'm going for a shower." Like, it feels almost like the writer is better doing normal characters than the superhero characters, because like it's like she doesn't know how to make them sound cool, so she's trying too hard. Whereas the detective that gets introduced after the big shootout happens and is like looking at all these dead bodies, we actually follow her home, and she goes to her like husband and she says, "Hey, take the kids out of town upstate. Internal affairs is going to be coming down hard on us because of all these like tower phone things that's happening. I want you and the kids out of the city." And he agrees reluctantly. And all of this stuff where it's just the personal life of this detective who's now investigating the case is actually like the most exciting part of the book to me, because it feels like the writer really knows how to do this interpersonal stuff, and it has a bit of a tone. And she gets a call, and I got excited for a second because I thought, oh, she's going to be the next tower like victim. And it's not, it's actually her like partner or whoever, and she sort of talks to him about, but then in the next page after she hangs up, the phone goes again from an unknown caller, and you're like, oh shit, this is it. And sure enough, yeah, like this voice with a creepy like bubble, or like the speech bubble's got like a crazy kind of like weird effect around it, and it says, "Oh, we know who you are. We are the tower." And like her eyes go kind of weird, where she has like two pupils in one eye. And that's the cliffhanger. The cliffhanger is this detective we've got to know a little bit of by the end is the next person who's going to be forced to kill someone, and then herself. So it gives us some stakes for Jason to actually, I don't know, maybe accomplish something in the next issue and be useful. So I actually thought the back chunk was quite good because it felt like an interesting premise that was quite dark, and it made me care a little bit about this cop before they pulled the cliffhanger. The actual Jason stuff is just pretty generic though. Like him narrating about how hot the city is. Oh, you wake up and your sheets are sticking to you because you're so sweaty. It just kind of feels like kind of typical noir / like vigilante comic book character type stuff. It's not terrible, and they are those kind of good throughout though, so that kind of keeps you going, I think. Honestly, it's kind of a fine issue, bordering on good even. There's parts of it that I like.
Wow.
There's some of the Jason Todd stuff and Huntress stuff was a little bit clunky, but he is just straight up shooting people. The premise is quite dark with this like phone possession thing that's happening, whoever's doing this. And then it does a good job in the last chunk of setting you up to really kind of care about this character that is the next victim. And obviously we'll never know what the follow-up is because issue 2 is never happening now. But, like, it felt like there was a story to be told here, and the art is good throughout, so it is kind of a shame it won't continue. Now, would I have kept reading it if someone wasn't going to make me via Patreon? I don't know. It's tough to say because it is still Red Hood, and part of me like almost thinks it's funny to just never read the Red Hood books at this point. Yeah. But it's not bad. Like, it's definitely better than any Scott Lobdell Red Hood issue I ever read. Ironically, someone who also is not allowed at DC anymore because of things that he's done, much more justifiably so, might I add. So I don't know. It's all right. It's like a 7. I'm not mad at it.
Wow.
Like it's yeah, so it's just kind of weird coming into it with all this like weird circle, like 2 controversies. One, the firing and the comments and like the cancellation and people like going on about that, but then also just like Red Hood fans being mad at how a character he is. And I'm like, as someone who doesn't never liked Red Hood, that's actually like perfect for me. Like be more a character, get away from who he is. That's perfect. Yeah, if anything, just kill him off in the second issue and make it a Huntress book. I'll be fine with that. Like, that's fine.
Turns out they were out of bullets.
Yeah, I also wonder if like part of the decision was because the premise is about people getting murdered like this. Yeah, like maybe they thought, oh, it sounds like a cool idea to have an M-rated book where there's like really brutal violence. But then the assassination happens this week, and they're like, maybe we don't want to have a brutal, like, R-rated style comic.
Yeah, but I feel like had it not been for the author's words that were pulled,
I'm saying
they might have delayed it, right? They might have like, we're gonna push this down the line. And
that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that's the first thought. I'm saying that made it easier to just outright say the book's done. We're just not going to continue the book in any way. It's just gone now from the ether. And that's fine, whatever. It's a shitty decision, just on principle, rather than because I want the book to keep existing, because it's a Red Hood book. I don't really care that much. But it is what it is. But it's not a bad issue, honestly. It's not the most amazing thing ever, but I do think the main premise is interesting, and it does a good job of hooking me at the end. The worst part about it is Red Hood, which is not surprising, I suppose.
The worst part of Red Hood is Red Hood. I mean, that is A plus B equals C, Yeah,
and not that Huntress is great yet either. Like I say, she kind of comes across as like kind of one note angry, like no one tells me what to do kind of like thing. But yeah. Not the worst thing ever. It's perfectly fine. I think that the opinions on the internet, and the reason why I noticed some of these complaints is because when I went on to log it on League of Comic Geeks, the average rating was like 2.5, which is pretty low, and I sort of scrolled down to the reviews, and there's a bunch of like 1/2-star and 1-star reviews of people saying it's like the worst thing they've ever read, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Just go and read other Red Hood by Scott Lobdell. Like, there's no way in hell you can tell me this is worse than those, because it simply isn't.